Welcome to the Conscious Living Podcast, conversations to educate, empower, and enlighten our world. An uplifting and inspiring series of conversations and talks with your host, Jackie Woodside. We are educating minds, empowering lives, and enlightening souls to create a world where love prevails. In this engaging podcast, we deliver exciting, positive, transformative talks and teachings designed to elevate your life. Now, let's join our host, Jackie Woodside, for this week's session.
Hello there, and thank you for joining us again for another edition of the Conscious Living Podcast, where we are here to educate, empower, and enlighten our world. Isn't that a great thought that we spend our time educating, empowering, and enlightening our world? That's really what I'm up to, and I want to thank you for being someone who cares about that mission, who cares about living in an enlightened, engaged society. So every week I like to have conversations either with guests or sometimes I'll just go on and talk about areas of conscious living that are important to me and I hope relevant to you. But today I'm really excited about the topic of of kind of dealing with your scattered self, dealing with the chaos that we live in. As many of you know, I wrote a book called Calming the Chaos, and those of you perhaps who followed me closely know I'm also have been diagnosed with adult attention deficit disorder and deal with that form of neurodiversity. So I'm looking forward to diving into this topic today of how to, if you will, unscatter me with our guest, Carol Williams, who hails not too far away from me from New Hampshire. Carol is a professional coach who really works with people around the level of productivity and movement, unstuckness that they want to develop. So, Carol, tell us a little bit more about yourself and what led you into doing this work.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much. It's an honor to be here, and I really love that we're basically neighbors. That's
Yeah,
like,
I know, isn't that great?
yeah,
New
yeah.
Englanders.
So
We're New Englanders.
yeah, so what led me to do this is I won't lie, 15 years ago I got laid off and I had to do something. So so I thought, well, heck, what better thing to do than to open my own business rather than, trying to find a job in a recession. So that's why I, went down the path of having my own business. But things have
But
really,
why this topic, though? Why the
yeah.
topic of productivity and self-management and unscattering people?
Yeah. So I started out as a professional organizer because I had been a project manager before that, and I was really good at being organized. You know, I was leading up a not only a team but also to my home, like my not so nice husband and a couple of kids and a house and all that jazz, and I was really good at that. So, but what I learned right away was that there's reasons why people are disorganized. And so I said, all right, I need to align myself with somebody else, like an ADHD coach, right? So I did this. And she is one of my nearest and dearest friends now. Okay. And she's actually changed a lot she's gone into spirituality, but at any rate, that's how I got into it. And that's why I got into it originally. And the more I learned and the more I absorbed myself in the world of neurodiversity and married that with being organized and, married that with kind of coaching, I became, I went to certifications like business coach, life coach, and productivity and time management because I thought that's what people wanted. And what I really learned was that people just honestly, they just want to be happy. They want to wake up every morning feeling like they're not all scattered and they are able to make a difference.
Yeah.
But it took a while to get there.
Yeah.
You know?
You said something that I find interesting. You said that you came to notice that there is a reason that people are disorganized. So what did you learn about that, Carol, that you can share with our listeners that might help them identify some of the reasons that they're struggling with organization?
Yeah. Well, this isn't true universally, but lots of times it's because in the neurodiverse world, the neuro, differences, it's because the brain is wired differently, And even if you're not neurodiverse, when you have a lot going on, let's face it, your house is going to be messy, your desk is going to be messy, your calendar is going to be messy. So my mom, who was a housewife for like 61 years now, she's been 61 years married. Way in the beginning of my business, she said, Carol, what do you organize? And I looked at her and I said, brains.
Nice.
And
Nice.
she's like, what? But I think she understood. Because when we can organize, and she herself is neurodivergent, never really diagnosed, but she taught me a lot about how to be organized as somebody that takes care of the home,
Okay.
actually,
That's
you
great.
know? And so
So,
there's a lot of ways to do it.
yeah, so let's talk about that. You have methods and systems. So how do you, I love that phrase, organize the brain. That makes perfect sense. I say, as within, so without. And a cluttered mind creates a cluttered life.
Yeah,
Some of my phrases when I wrote the book on productivity called Calming the Chaos. So
yeah.
what do you see? How do you help people unscatter themselves or become more organized?
Yeah. Well, so what I do is basically what's behind me. The first thing, you see how we have decide, discern, discover, practice, and celebrate. And do you see how decide, well, probably people don't just listening, but
Yeah, a lot of this is on
decide,
audio. This will be on YouTube for those that want the
okay,
visual. Carol has a nice visual behind her, but
okay.
yeah, this will mostly be on audio, but it will also be on
Gotcha.
YouTube for people that want to check that out.
Well, so people, what they want is they want to be more organized so that blah, blah, blah. They can be more profitable, they can be more happy, they can whatever, have a better family life, whatever it is. But what they really need is to actually make some decisions. So that's why when you can look at this, decide is this big red blurb, and the rest are green steps. And
Okay, but
decide is hard.
yeah,
First thing
people
you
need
have
to
to do,
decide what kinds of decisions are you referring to?
they have to decide what they want, what
Yeah.
they really want, and what's underneath what they really want. And what they say they want and what they really want are two different things.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so it's huge, actually. And we can be stuck in thinking we've decided. We haven't decided.
Mm.
But what I want to do is I want to kind of zero in because we don't have time to talk about the whole thing. But what I'm going to zero in is on step 3, which is discover. And
Okay.
discover is what that does when you do that step, you actually go through a framework that after 10 years of being in this business, I decided to create my own framework. And that's the productivity success cake. Okay. And what people think is they want to manage their time better, they want to focus more, et cetera, et cetera. They want to become less scattered because they're just not getting anything done. But what they don't realize, besides the decide part, is that there's stuff underneath. They haven't thought about their health that much. They haven't thought about their environment that much. And so when we go through the productivity success cake process, we go through layer by layer, piece by piece, and we do it in a fun, exciting, visual, cool way that I say it's calorie free. And I've
Hmm.
been told this is more fun and holistic. And they have never, there's all these tips. There's too many tips. Let's face it, there's too many productivity like things and hacks. And oh my God, and you're exhausted. And let's just not do any of it. But when you get the fun little system where you can just kind of pick one at a time and be okay with wherever you are,
We
that's
pick one what at a time.
matter. You
Pick.
can pick one slice to work on at a time.
Right, so walk us through an example and of
Sure.
how this works. Yeah.
Yeah. So first of all, there's an assessment, and right on the website, there's an assessment. Like you don't have to pay anything, okay? But what we do is in the course itself is we start down below and we say, okay, cool, how's your health? And for example, one of the big things is sleep, especially as we age, and especially if we're female. Sleep is hard. And guess what happens when we don't sleep well? We're
It's harder.
we're scattered.
Yeah, yeah, your brain doesn't function well when a well-rested brain, it doesn't get to clean its synapses overnight.
So I say it's not like Jenga. You can't just push the sleep through and have it be okay. Actually, you need to deal with that. That's a great example of how no matter what kind of productivity hacks me or anybody or yourself or anybody might try to teach, if a person really isn't sleeping at night, they don't have a baseline of movement and you know this and they know it, but it gets overlooked. So we start with health. Then we go to environment. Environment is all about making sure you have the right support, lighting your light, doing things for you, not because like it's an added extra, but because that's gas in the tank, right?
Lighting your light, meaning doing things that you love, self-care, your
Whatever
interests.
makes you fulfilled.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
forget that, right? We forget it or we know it, but we just don't quite get to it regularly. And we don't see it as actual requirements. We see it as a nice to have.
Mm,
Then and only then, when our cake is good enough, does not have to be a 10 out of 10, but when it's good enough, now we can focus on the productivity part, right? Now we can say, okay, cool. How do you remember to remember? What are some strategies that you can remember to remember? Because that's a big thing when you're neurodiverse. How do you do time management? How do you do task management? What's your system now? What's your system when you fall down? When do you back up? Like, what about when you get bored? We talk about that. Procrastination, interruptions, all that stuff. Then we deal with the productivity layer. And after that, we want to get to our next level, right? Our next level 10. Rinse, repeat, sharpen the saw. Of course, we always have to celebrate. That's the candles on the top. Just like you were saying in another thing, we all want to play. We want to celebrate. We want to have a playful happiness to this.
Right, right.
You
So
know?
let's go back to what you said about boredom and procrastination, because I'm a coach also, and I have a
Yeah.
course on procrastination. Boredom is something that a lot of people with ADHD deal with. How do
Yeah.
you, what strategies and how do you help people deal with just that sense of like, ugh, I just don't want to, or and dealing with procrastination?
Yeah. Well, of course, as you know, because you probably do the same thing, right? Is every person is different. Every situation is different. And just because something worked for you today does not mean it's going to work again next month. So, number one, be okay with that because it will always change, always change. That's a guarantee. Now, the next thing I do is say, okay, cool. What's worked for you in the past when you've needed to get something started? You know, another one is eat dessert first. Lots of times, ADHD folks, when they have the reward first, then that gives them the dopamine to get going.
Mhm.
Breaking things up, real small, having the accountability. It's probably not that much different than what you do. But what I love about working with a group, and I expect you work with groups too. I checked out your website, is that they start to see other people having their same problems. They do not feel that guilt and shame. Oh my gosh, it's just me. What's wrong with me? And go down the spiral of doom. It's just the opposite. They say, oh my gosh, look, I'll say Robin, because that's one of my clients. Robin was, procrastinating. She never got to something. And then finally she, took Carol's, actually, she took discern first because that's her deep purpose. And that's huge, right? Because you got to root to your deep purpose. Because who cares about any of this stuff if you don't care why you're doing it? And I know you do a lot of the same type of work.
Yeah,
But
there's
that
more to life than getting
makes
things
a difference.
done.
That
That,
make, that makes a huge difference,
yeah.
especially to neurodiverse people. My son's neurodiverse. He's like, Mom, don't tell me about what I should do. Ask me about why it's important to me.
Oh, wow. Impressive.
Well, he's 22. He's pretty smart.
That's pretty impressive. Yeah.
Yeah, and he started being a coach under my wing when he was 19. Yeah. So there's that. But at any rate, it's hard to coach your own kids, right? And I'm just being his mom. And he's like he puts the brakes on and he's like, no, 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 mom, don't be my mom, be my coach. I'm like, okay.
Wow.
By the way, it's really hard.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's impressive that he wants you involved in his life in that way. That's really
Oh,
wonderful.
yeah, we're super close.
I
I'm super close to both my.
19-year-old neurodiverse child as well. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So
yeah.
that's a little bit. I bet you there's so many similarities of the kind of, it's just the flavor of what we do. Ultimately, in the end, it's probably about the same, but you have your ways and I have my ways.
Yeah,
And
so I'm curious, you said something just a few minutes ago that like what's worked now might not work in 2 weeks or might not work in a month from now because it always changes. What
Hmm.
do you mean by that?
I mean, people get bored, especially people with ADHD. It's kind of like you put the picture on the wall, you love the picture. Then after a little while, you do not see that picture, right? You don't. You don't see the picture. The other thing that happens is that life gets in the way. Life gets in the way, and then like you're going on your morning routine, it's working, it's working, it's working. Like one of my clients, her mom just went in the hospital. I can guarantee you her morning routine is out the window. She's neurodiverse, and that's okay because what I'll do is I'll say, "Hey, why don't you go with an accordion?" So with the accordion morning routine, like we have the bare bones, and then we have the middle, and then we have the full. So I'll remind her you can go to the accordion. And even if you don't get to the smallest accordion level, it's okay. But make sure you check in with me because when she doesn't, or when anybody doesn't, they fall off the wagon and it doesn't work anymore. And they start with the guilt and shame and start like, I'm no good and see, it never works for me. And this always happens. And all those negative voices start happening again. So it's kind of like either you get bored with it, like the picture on the wall, or something happens in life that throws you off the horse, quite frankly. And
Mhm.
so then you just got to start again. It's okay.
And so when you say start again, do you mean create a new structure or go back to the structures that have worked?
It's going to depend on each person. Usually you go back, but maybe you just change the flavor, like you have a different, flavor cake type of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
It'll just depend. And I really believe in there is no one size fits all. True, really, truly. Some people like apps. Some people have to write it out. Some people, you know, write out literally every single step. They rewrite it I do. I like to rewrite it on a an actual sheet. Like, and I have to have it in front of me, you
Mhm.
know? Because if I just have it like on a to-do list or something and it's on the computer, I won't see it, I won't pay attention to it. So everybody's different. Everybody's
Okay.
different, and it always changes. It just always
Okay.
changes.
Yeah, yeah, that's not been my experience as much. I've used the same system now since I was diagnosed with ADHD, probably in my early 30s. So
Mhm.
I've used the same system for a long time, and
It works.
I guess it works so well that maybe that's why I haven't gotten bored with it. I love being productive. I love accomplishing things. I love seeing my mission grow and expand in the world. So that gives me my dopamine hit. Like
There you
so
go.
my method is I schedule my life and live my calendar. Um,
Oh,
eh, and it just, so at the beginning of every day, I review my calendar. At the end of every day, I move forward anything I didn't get done. The end of the week, I populate the following week's calendar, and I have my quarterly goals. That goes on my calendar. Anyway, it so works for me in terms of my own value around being productive. Which brings me to a question. You talk about our notion of getting more done in less time as being kind of a misnomer. Getting more done in less time. You say that that's not something that, that our understanding of it is wrong. So what's your thought about that?
well, I mean, here's the thing. There's always going to be more to do,
Yeah, there's always right until you're going to die with stuff that still needs to get done. You're,
right?
you're going to die and somebody has to handle your stuff and do your laundry and put away your things and yeah. So there's
Yeah.
always more to get done. Is that what you mean that it's a misnomer?
Yeah, it's like sure, of course you can be more productive. And the fact is that you can get a lot more done in an hour when you're what you describe. You've pre-thought a list, you work your calendar, absolutely. But then there comes a point. I have this one client where he's an executive, actually. He's like an exhausted executive, and he's definitely neurodivergent. And he explained it one time as, goes, Carol, I've got this down. He goes, but the only thing is, it's like drinking from a trough and pulling myself up and drinking from a trough and pulling myself up. And he's so busy doing the stuff that you know what time we doesn't have time for now that we're just working on now? Staring out the window time, big picture time, doing nothing time. And that is a key to productivity. Rest, doing nothing. I just got finished reading the book 4,000 Weeks. I love it. Love it. And they say that in 4,000 weeks, they're like, you get 4,000 weeks, and I guarantee you, your to-do list will never be done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's okay. It's like we have this notion that if we just do blah, 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 we'll get it all done. No, you won't get it all done, actually.
Okay.
Want to do is decide what you really want to do and be okay with that and let the rest just kind of flow.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you, and everyone around me, I'm sure you hear this from your clients, maybe you say it yourself. Everyone talks about, oh my God, there's so much to do.
Yeah.
So in that, in this culture that we're in, that by the way is just getting more and more accelerated with, the advent of AI and, I say it's the microwave effect. It all started with the microwave. Oh, we'll be able to get so much more done, right? And then what did we
Oh,
do?
yeah.
We just piled more things on. And then email. Oh, this will be so much more effective. I'll be able to get so much more done. What did we do? We piled more on. So I can see where this is going with AI, and it is incredibly helpful how quickly you can, quote, get things done with
Mhm.
AI. But you're saying getting more done in less time isn't really the answer. The answer is knowing exactly what you want to experience and then like privileging that in your life.
100%. Because you go the other way, and the only way that you're ever going to be is super busy and ultimately exhausted and maybe burned out.
Well, yeah, everybody is.
Exactly.
That's why I wrote the book
That's
Calming
why
Chaos. Yeah.
that's why subtraction is the key thing.
Oh, so say more about that. Subtraction. What does that mean?
Subtraction. So you must know the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule.
But just say what it is for people who maybe don't know it. Just so
Sure. So the 80-20 rule is you get 20, well, there's lots of ways to interpret it.
right.
In this case, I'm saying you get 80% of your results from 20% of what you're doing. So pick the 20% that you want to get done well, because you know what? You're probably only going to get 20% of your whole list done anyway, and you're going to get it partially done or badly done. So the first thing we do is we dump out. I'm sure you do this with your folks. You dump out, do the brain dump, everything
All out of your head. Yeah.
right? And then you take and you ruthlessly remove, temporarily at least, 80% of it. And as that person's having heart failure, it's like, okay, it's only going to go in a parking lot for an hour. We're not going to throw it away forever. And then you just focus on that 20%. And now there's the subtraction. And now you can like prioritize that 20% and not feel like, oh, I'm just never done. Like that's exhausting.
Yeah.
Exhausting is not cool. Exhausted does not get you uh, into your genius zone to be able to do your great work in the world. It doesn't lead to conscious living. It's the opposite of conscious living. It's unconscious living. It's treadmill. It's hamster wheel. And that's what we don't want.
Yeah, I love that. And thinking about conscious living, that our time is more than just our work. A lot of times we orient the time of our lives around our work days. And one of the things that you talk about is how to stop working so hard for so little money. So let's go there a little bit. Talk
Sure.
about that.
Yeah. So when I talk about that, who I'm really talking to is solopreneurs.
Yeah.
That's my specialty. Because everything we do when we own our own business and we are our own person, sure, we probably have teams. You and I have virtual teams that help us out, but in the end, most people that I work with, and I myself am a soloist or a solopreneur. So I could spend my life being really busy, and I have, by the way, in my past, gotten really busy doing a lot of things and not really making any money. But when I took the 80-20 rule and said, hang on, who do I love working with, that I make a huge difference in their lives? They love working with me. They have crazy good results. And like they're happy to pay me a lot of money because their results are off the charts and it's a win-win-win.
Mhm.
Those people are the people that I get to decide that I want to work with more. And when they feel like a drain, it's the opposite. And this is true regardless of whether you're a coach, whether you're a helper, whether you're a healer, truly whether even if you're a house builder. Like if you have a bad sort of difficult client, it's going to just drain your energy. I don't really work with house builders, but just helpers, healers, service-based entrepreneurs. And if you're a service-based entrepreneur, then you darn well better vet your client. And if it's going downhill, have a conversation. And if it doesn't work, you get to say no.
Mhm.
No, this isn't working.
Mhm.
And that frees you up because you're the only you have when you're a solopreneur.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I can't speak highly enough about the importance of not trying to do it all.
Yeah.
No, I would not be able to accomplish what I accomplish and do what I do without my team.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people when they're just getting started, they're kind of bootstrapping and feel like, well, but I don't have the money for that. And it's either going to be time or money. And in this era, it's time, money, or expertise. And if you're going to develop expertise in all of the areas that's required to be a solopreneur, you're not really going to have a business because there's just not that many hours in the day.
There's
So
not.
there are so many ways to have, really, really helpful talent. I have like 10 people that work for me, and I think only one of them is based in the US, out of the 10. So it's not that hard to do in the world that we're living in, Zoomtopia and, the internet-based world that we live in. So yeah, I just want to say that to people. I love your 80-20 principle of really honing down what are the 20% of your tasks that bring you 80% of the benefit in your business. And if you really look at that and then outsource that, it's not like you don't stop doing them, but you can find ways of outsourcing it. One of the other key distinctions I like to make, Carol, when I'm talking about this topic of chaos or being scattered is the distinction between being busy versus being productive. And, most people in our world, because they haven't been trained neurologically and in their organizational skills, most people are busy. Everybody's busy. Busy's not even interesting any longer. Busy is the new rich, you know.
Yeah.
But are you really productive? And the difference in energy between those two states of busy and productive is huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, we are two peas in a pod, Jackie. I'm pretty sure of that.
Yeah, for sure. So just really want to encourage people to consider that, when you feel that adrenaline rush, that, God, I'm so busy, how much are you planning your day? How much are you clear on what it is that you want to do? I love your step about discerning, of doing a deep inquiry into what's the meaning of all this activity anyway. What are you trying to accomplish? What do you want to feel? Spending some time answering those questions is so important.
Yeah, I go deep. I'm sure you do too. And it's all about the depth. It's very important.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's really where people feel that sense of satisfaction and happiness. So, Carol, if people want to find you, they need an unscatter me coach. Where's the best way for people to get in touch with you and talk with you further?
Oh, that's nice and easy. Unscatterme.com. I'm right there.
Such a great URL, unscatterme.com. Carol
Just like
Williams,
that.
the Unscatter Me coach for entrepreneurs, particularly solo entrepreneurs who feel like you've got too much going on, not enough time to get it all done, and are really tired of being on that rat race. So thank you so much for being with us today, Carol.
You, Jackie.